You can write SQL queries using this type of language. Guys, it's very, very powerful. Correctly and without any headache. And it's very easy to be tested. Hi guys, I'm Daniel and I'm helping you to become a better RPA developer in the UiPath. Now in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you more tricks how you filter data if you have in multiple data sources, how you match the correct rows, and to this example, I'm gonna have a look to the advanced challenge number 8, which is actually quite advanced. The problem has two data tables with multiple rows, and we need to identify the correct rows from the other one and actually to have a result which is totally different. Now, I'm gonna jump in a moment to the problem statement. Now, this is something really advanced. If you're pretty new to UiPath, then this tutorial is not for you. Check out the other resources which I have here. I'm gonna leave a link here in the description with other tutorials which I have for beginners. And if you are advanced or you do have the RPA Developer Foundation certification and if you want to go further, then stay with me. Now, without further ado, let's check out the problem statement. Like usual, Santa has some problems with their renders and they ask the UiPath community to write a robot to help them. Now, I'm gonna leave a link here in the description with the entire one, link to the forum, but I'll just jump directly to the problem statement. So we are given this input file, this Excel spreadsheet, which has two worksheet names. The first one is tasks and the second one is executions. Now we're given to give a result to write another file with only 4 columns. The first one, it's a task and the 3 columns are given by a formula. Now I'm gonna read the formula just in a moment, but mainly I'm just gonna show you the file. So let me show you. Now this is the input file. It has the task and the region code. Here we have some tasks. And to the executions, it represents the tasks that are executed there. Now, there are tricky things because some of the elements are not here, but some of them are here, and we are asked to find a way to give this result, so based on this column. So let's take an example. Is defined task. We are asked to set a value true or false, like it's here. And if the task is present in execution data here, but it's not defined in the task, then we should say this is defined task equal false. So it's somehow we need to join these two data tables, and it's not actually very common, this thing. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. And for the second one, task it started true, we are asked to set a value which is true or false. If this value will be true only if a task is present in either these two, either the task or the execution. Otherwise, I'm going to set task is started false. So I will just read the sentence just after we need to write the query because we will need to resolve this using a query, and I'm going to use language integrated query. So that's a very powerful technique to filter data, and I'm going to take this problem statement just like an example. So let's jump on UiPath Studio. So what I have here, it's very basic. I have a project. So what I have here, it's very basic. I have a project which is empty project. I don't have any reframework because it's not needed. And I'm going to collapse the dependencies. I have here this data, which is the exact same file which I have shown you previously. And here in the beginner sequence, I'm planning to resolve the beginner request. Now, as you know, there is the beginner and the advanced, and we're going to resolve both of them. So let's see how we can resolve the beginner. Now, the first thing which I will do is to read this Excel file. Now, because we have here this file which has two worksheet names, I'm gonna use a read range twice for each task name, and I will output the result in a data table. So let's do that. Go here in the activities, read range. I'm gonna select the file, which is this one from the data. Then to the worksheet name, I'm gonna say tasks. I'll leave this empty to read the entire file. I make sure that the headers is checked, and let's give the result. I'm going to create a variable which will be named tasks dt and copy and paste. Change the value to executions data table. And then I need to build a data table that will have that result. So I'm planning to create a table which has 4 columns, and the value will be given by the formula that I'm gonna write just in a moment. So let's build a data table. I'll use build data table. I'm just gonna use copy paste. So task ID, I'll just copy paste the columns. Here I'm gonna use rename. Edit, I will use the same string for all the columns, just to make the thing simple. I could use Boolean. Okay, and this data table, I will create another variable which will name result dt. Great. Now let's go to the interesting part where we need to write some query for each of these formula. And because I like to make the thing simple, I'm planning to write 3 language integrated queries, but at the end I like to merge based on this task ID. So each of them, it will output the task name, actually the task ID and the result. So based on this, at the end, I'm gonna do a merge in order to create these 4 columns. So let's do that. And how I would do that? Well, I'm gonna use invoke code. And I'm planning to make this problem as shortest as possible. So invoke code, I'll switch here the language from VB to C#. I'm gonna create an argument first, and I'll like to create 3 arguments. The first one, it will be the tasks, and that's a data table. And the value, it will be the tasks dt. The second one, it will be the executions. Now I don't add the dt here at the end because this has a smaller scope like this one. And the third one, it will be the result. So I'm gonna give a name like result dt, and I'm gonna change here to the data table. And let's delete this argument, hit OK, and let's edit the code. So for the first query, I'm gonna start with var is defined task query, and let's read the problem statement. We are given the task is present in execution data, but it's not defined in the task data. So we need to have a look first to the execution data. Now we will have a look to the execution data if we're going to use from. Let's name execution row in. We need to go in the executions data table. So I'm going to have executions as enumerable. And then I will need to make 2 things. First, I need to extract the task name. This is needed in order to perform that merge, and the result. Now, because I need 2 values, I'm gonna need to select a new value, an anonymous object. So let's actually, like that, I'm gonna say let task equal with execution row, that field. I'm gonna grab the column. Now, something which I would like to tell you, let's open this file. In the executions, I'm gonna use the column name with caps, and here, these are with capital letters, so the rest of our lower letters. So this is easy to be seen. So I'll need to get this column name, which is task. This one is from execution. And then I will need to select the new, and the task should be the task. And then I need to write is defined, which is given by this formula. If a task is present in execution data but is not defined, then I'm gonna say this to false. Well, I can read the other way around. If the task is present in execution rate data, but it's defined in the task data, then I'm gonna set this one to true. So this is what I'm gonna do. I will go here and I'm gonna go through the tasks. So tasks as enumerable. Now I have here 2 options. I like to make the things as easy as possible. So I'll write a select. I would like to separate the entire data table with a collection of strings. So I'm going to show you first. Now this task is a data table. So I like to separate just these values. So how we do that, I'm going to use a select. So select, then I'm going to use li from list item, then li, it's a data row, so I can call add methods from a data row, which is field. I like to extract a string, and then the column name it's task with lower, and I think I have here an error. I need to close 2 parentheses. And then this is simply a collection. I can simply use contains if the contains to the task. and I'm gonna add a semicolon at the end just to separate the query. So let's write again what we have done here. If a task is present in execution data, but it's defined in the task, then I'm gonna set this to true. If a task is here in the executions, I'm gonna start with the execution data table, is defined if this task is contained inside this collection, which is given by the task enumerable. Great, so that should be the first problem. Now let's go to the next statement, which is how do you check a task is started true? So if a task is present in task data and also present in execution data, then task is started equal with true. Else, task is started false. So let's do that. It's given to... Now I'm gonna start with task from the task data, the other way around. And the condition, I would say it's probably the same. So let's do that. I will just get this copy, var query equal from task row in tasks as enumerable. I can do the same thing. So let's say task equal with task field. And actually let's do that. Let task equal task row dot field. I'm gonna get a string and the column is named task. Now what I'll need to select new. I'll need to select the task in order to make that merge. It will be the same task, and I need to say task is started equal with executions. Go here as data table as enumerable. Then I can use the other method, so I can use the same trick, select or contains. And there are multiple methods to check if this value is inside this collection. But the simplest one, which is the one which I have given here. So I'm gonna say select list item. Each list item has a field. I'm gonna grab a string with a column with capital T and then contains. And I think there is a problem here. Yes, I need to open a parenthesis. It contains the task. And that should be all. Add a semicolon and let's go to the next one. So the next one we need to check to has a valid RC execution. If a task in execution data is executed in a region which is not defined, then for this task ID then has valid RC executed false. Now here it's a bit more tricky because we need to check the task, but the condition should be done on the region code. So this query, it will be a bit more complex, but I want to show you step by step. Task, let's copy this, has valid RC executed, and I'm going to append query equal. So I will start from the executions. So from here, if a task in execution data is executed in a region which is not defined, and I would like to start from this execution data because it's much easy. Then for this task has valid RC executed false. So what I'll do, I'm just showing the Excel file. Here, I'll start with these executions. And if something which is not defined here, then based on each row, I'll search for this particular corresponding row. And by the way, for each row, there is a collection here. And I could have two cases. I can either find this row here, and say I'm gonna find here, I can have two options. I can have one element or multiple elements. So I need to check any elements is here. I'm not regarding the order, I will just discard. And if I don't find the element, I'm gonna treat that the collection is empty. So for me, a collection empty, it means that doesn't contain any element. So I'll just consider that each element which is not here, it will be empty. Actually, the region code corresponding to task, it will be empty. So how I would do that? Well, I said I'm gonna start with start from execution data. So let's do that from execution, row in executions as enumerable. And to make that thing simple, I'm gonna just use the same mechanism. Let task equal execution row dot field. And let's get this string, which is task with capital. And then I need to get for each execution row a subset. So I would like to get for each execution row, for this one, this collection, which it's actually there are multiple, but the corresponding task ID. So what I'm going to do with this from, I'm looping through each individual item, and for each region code, which I'm gonna grab just in a moment, I would like to obtain a collection to the corresponding T1. So here I'm just gonna have one element, but one element with multiple items. I'm gonna show you how you can do that. So let's grab this region code. I'm gonna say something like let region code equal execution row dot field. This one is string, and let's say region code. And now let's define another collection. So let's say define region codes. So I'm looking to get in the tasks, so tasks as enumerable. And here I'm planning to filter. So to filter only the ones which have the column task for this corresponding task ID. So how I do that? Well, I have multiple options here. I can do nested language integrated queries, and actually this is similar to a nested executed query. It's actually the same, but it's the different syntax. And I'm gonna show you why I prefer to use this. So I'll say where I need to filter here, where list item, it's a data row, which I can filter. So I'm gonna grab field, and the column, it's task, which I'm gonna give equal, I'm gonna use the equal operator with this actual task. So with this one from the execution row. And now here I have a collection, which all the time it will be one single element, and this is given a data row. So I'm filtering here on the tasks where, based on this condition, and actually to be easy to be read, I'm just gonna grab an enter here at the end. And I would like to convert this to a collection. So how do you convert a collection? Where we select, actually I need to close another parenthesis here and select. So while I'm planning to select, I'm selecting the lead.field string, and again this is a data column, region code, and I'm planning to select the actual split. So let's check, actually I think we have an error here. Task equal with task. Okay, so we do have an error here. It's caused by this character. So I'm planning lead.field string, and I would like to split based on the character on the comma. So in this way, for each element here, for each data row, I'm gonna obtain a collection, but I need to convert from a collection to one single element for that collection. This one is a bit more difficult, and I need to use select many. Well, if you want to give more example with this select many, just drop me a comment. This is actually an advanced topic. So I'm gonna close the parentheses. So for each execution row, I do have the defined execution codes from here. And this is a collection. So what I need to do, I need to select a new, again, I'm gonna use the same trick, task equal task, and I will just copy this, has valid RC executed. And based on the text which is here, so I need to have a look to the defined task and to check for that execution. So let's do that. I will just have defined execution codes. And how do I check if an element is inside of that collection? Well, I'm gonna use contains. So contains, and the element which I would like to check is this region code, which is defined here, the region code corresponding to the execution row. So because I have here defined, I'll say region code, or otherwise I can simply use this syntax. And actually let's do that. I'm gonna copy because it's much simpler to understand. Great. So this is our condition. I need to add a semicolon. Now I'm gonna make a recap just before to go to the next one, because this one, it's a bit more tricky. So for each execution row, I'm getting the task, and I have here the defined region codes, but I would like to filter only the ones which have they match based on the task. So this task, it's from here, right? It's from here, from the task. and it's checking to be the same from the one from execution row, which is with the capital one. So it's with this one. Now, I would like to select many elements because for this individual item here, I can have multiple region codes. That's the reason I'm gonna use select many and not select, because I'm making a collection from a list of lists to a list. So here I have the defined region codes, and then I need to select a new. I'm gonna use the same trick. Has valid executes a condition. I get this condition it contains, and that should be all. Now let's hit OK and let's make sure if we do have any other errors. And I don't seem to have any warning, so let's go to the next one. Well, we need to merge. So here I need to write another query. Based on this task ID, I should be able to have 4 values. And these 4 I'm gonna add to the result data table. So how I would do that? Well, I'm gonna write another query, and something which I would like to do before, I like to get the entire task ID. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they are here. Now, theoretically, I would go with tasks from one single element, but just because there are elements which are missing, for instance, this task ID, it's here 3, what I would do, I will just grab the elements from here because these are distinct. I will just append to the ones here, and I'm gonna make distinct elements. Basically, I'm gonna append this element to one single collection, and then I'm making sure that I have one element of that value. So how I would do that? Well, let's write first the query, and I'm gonna name query equal from task row in tasks as enumerable. And actually, I'm gonna show you another trick. For instance, here I have a collection of task row. Now, if I want to have a collection of text, I can simply say task row dot select. I will get the item. So for each item, I'm gonna grab a field, which I'm gonna convert to a string by this task value. So right now I have only the values for the corresponding column. I think I have here a typo. And then I'm gonna append to the ones from the execution rows. Well, how I would do that? I'm gonna use an union with execution dot as enumerable dot select. I'm gonna use the same trick. For each item, I'm gonna grab the field. It will be of type string and is task. Then I'm gonna make distinct. Did you got that? Well, we can use some enters here in order to make the reading easier. Actually, I'm gonna make some enters. So I'm gonna select here, then I'm gonna union with this. And let's put a few tabs. Now it's much easier to read. Okay, and based on this, all we need to do is just to make a select. So we need to make a select with the task, and then we need to have the 4 values, which were considered the queries on the top. So the first one is the task, which is given by the task. And then let's define each value, and actually each boolean for the query here on the top. So for the first one, which is isDefine task, I'm gonna copy this, or I can say isDefine equal isDefine query dot if is there any element which that element needs to correspond to this task. So task equal with task, and the task should be isDefine. Now, how do I know this? Well, this task and this are selected here. So I say that, actually, let's fix this, is defined. I'm gonna consider the value is defined if for that particular query, it will be any value corresponding to that task, which is defined true. And is defined true is this query, which I have already checked if it's correct. Great. Now let's go to the next one, which I'm gonna name task is started. Equal task is started query. And I'll use the same trick, any. If there is any element which for that task equal with the current task, and that element is task is started. Or actually, let's check the value here. It should be this. I'm gonna copy and hit paste. And let's add another comma. And for the next one, which has valid RC executed, can you guess what I'm gonna write? Well, the same thing. So has valid RC equal has valid RC query if is there any element for that corresponding task, task equal with task, and that is has valid RC executed, it's defined true. Now I don't say anymore I'm comparing with this true value because this is already a boolean, so there's no purpose to compare a boolean with a boolean. Okay, and that should be all. I'm gonna add a semicolon, and actually let's make this one to look pretty. I'm gonna use a few tabs. Okay, and for this one also. Great. So now what we need to do, we need to create a for each where all we need to do is just to append to the corresponding order. Now I'm gonna confirm with OK, and the data, actually I'm gonna just double check again. So we have the task ID is defined, so it's the exact order from the documentation. So edit code, maximize this, and let's write a for each. So let's say for each item in the query. What I need to do, well, I need to go to result.rows.add, and I need to write an object. I could select here an object, but to be honest, I like to make the things explicit to be easily read and easy understand. If I would say to write this type of code in production, I would write a bit different. For instance, I'm not gonna have the same amount of queries. I would have way less. But again, my purpose is to show you how you can understand this language executed query. So for each value, I'm gonna open a parenthesis and I'm gonna say item.task. And the first one is defined task. So I'm gonna say item.isDefined task. Item.is started. So task is started, and item.has valid RC. Add a semicolon and hit OK. Now the last step is to write this data table in Excel file. So I'm gonna write range. Okay, write range. I would like to say for the result.xls6, I'll keep this sheet name 1, and the data table should be in the result dt. And let's see if our program works. So I'm just gonna give a run. I should have this type of value, this type of result file. Okay, so it seems that I have an error. Let's make a check. Task does not belong to the data table. I think there is a typo here. It's name only tasks. So let's make sure where we have wrote this. So this is a task. It's just a task. I think it's here. Let's hit OK and give another try. Guys, what do you think? What do you think about this powerful technique? Drop me a comment if you want to make more tutorials about how you do data manipulation correctly and without any headache. And it's very easy to be tested. So project, I'm gonna hit a refresh and let's double check this Excel file. I think this should be in Excel. I'm not sure if I selected the CSV. Yes, I have on the other screen. I'm just gonna drop. Okay, one thing which I need to check, I would need to maybe add the columns. And how about if I like to set this in order? How you would do that? Well, actually, I'm gonna show you how you do that because it's very, very easy. So first thing, I'm gonna add headers. I will need to close this Excel file and I need to go here in the edit code. So I'm planning to add correspondingly order by this task ID. So what I need to do, well, I'm just gonna add an order by task. That's all, guys. That's all. So hit OK, hit another run. Let's see if it works. And actually this one is very easy to check for us. So if we do have the task in the corresponding order. Okay, I need to grab from the other screen. Here it is. Boom. Now let's check if our values are correct. So I'm gonna go here. If a task is present in execution data but not defined in task, and actually I'm gonna make this smaller, and this data file also. So if a task is present in execution data but not defined in the task data, then is defined equal with false. So first we need to have a look to the execution. If we do have a task which is present here, we have the is defined task true. So let's check for task 1, it's here and it's true indeed. What we have false is the task 2, which is exactly, it's not here. And task 3, it's here. I think we have a bug here. To the task 3. Task 3 is present in execution data but not defined in task data. Oh, let's make sure if it's defined here. So task 3 is missing. Okay. And task 4 it's here, and I think it's in the task 2 also. Yes, it is. And task 05 it's not here, but it's here. Great. Okay, and because it's not present here, this one should be false. And for the task is started, I should have the same thing. Now let's have a look to the has valid RC executed. So if a task is in execution data, it's given in a region which is not defined in the task data for that particular task ID, then has valid executed false. So let's read the problem statement again. If I would have any row in the execution data, which is executed in a region which is defined in task, then for that task ID, I should have true. So if a task from executed I have in a region which is not defined in the task data, so let's say the task 01, actually 01, I'm gonna highlight. 01 has A1, B1, C1, and A1, B1, C1, it's true. And for the rest, I think we do have the missing values. So I'm just gonna pick the task 02. Task 02 is not here. So that's why if a task was never executed, has valid RC executed, it's false. If it has not been executed, then it means it's not here. So it's false. For the task 3, I think it's just D1. And for the task 3, we are missing, so it's false. So I think for all the values are correct. So what do you think? Let me know what do you think about the language integrated queries. How do you sim this problem? How do you sim to manipulate multiple data tables now? Well, let's see the advanced solution. Now for the advanced solution, because I'm lazy, I'm just gonna use copy. I'll hit paste. I will just close this beginner. I'm gonna give a rename and hit rename advanced. Make this as a primary. Set as main, open, and let's read the problem statement. So for the advanced challenge, we do have the same file with the 2 worksheet, and I have an additional rule. I need to add another column which is named complete all valid RCs with the following rules. The execution of task in execution data with the status OK are relevant. So we need to filter from the execution only the ones which have this OK, which are only these 4 rows. Okay, and then if a task is executed for all the region codes defined for the task, in the task, then completed all valid RC is equal with true. So what we need to do, we need to filter, or we need to group. First of all, we need to filter only the ones which have the result OK. And then based on this, we need to group. We need to group by this task ID. So when you group, you would obtain another set based on the region. So let's say for the task 01, we do have A1 and C1. And if this A1 and C1 is defined here in the task, then you're gonna write that value true. Now for this task, it's A1, B1 and C1. So A1 it's missing. And actually, if I'm gonna check, so this is A1, the T04, it's only B1. So let's check T04, it's A1. T03, it's D1. T03, it's missing from here. And I think for all the values, I should have a false condition. So let's see how we can do that. Now, because I said this one is very easy to be extended, and actually they make a plus if you're gonna make a solution that it's easy to be added based on beginner solution. So let's do that. I'm just gonna go in the invoke code, and what do you think I'm gonna write here? You have guessed, another query. So let's do that. And actually I'm gonna give a name. Now we are here in the advanced. Okay, and the name of the query, I will say copy. I'm gonna use the same syntax. So var query equal. Now here, which one do I need to go? I need to go from the task in execution data, or I need to go from the task worksheet. So if we have a look here to this file again, if I'm gonna start with the elements from here, I need to make a grouping, and that would make the query a bit more hard to understand. But if I'm gonna start with task, can I start actually with this? Because I need to check the elements from both of collection. This is called inner joins. So because inner joins really doesn't matter which collection you're gonna start with. So I will choose to pick with the start from here, from this task column, because it's much easy to write that query. So let's do that. I'm gonna just use a from task row in tasks as enumerable, and we need to say let. So let's get the task. It's task row equal with field. I'm gonna grab a string from the column task, and for this guy, I would like to get the region codes. So task row dot field. Okay, and I would like to grab a collection. So region codes, region code. If I'm gonna use a split with this character, which is the comma, I'm getting a collection here of text for each individual task. Now I need to check for each element here, only the rows which are okay, have the status okay. So I need to make a subset. So very similar with the previous query. This one from the has valid RC executed. So I need to get the element from the execution. I will filter only with this result okay. I'm just gonna check with this task ID. So only the ones which have the corresponding task ID, this row with this row. And then we will see what we'll do next. And because I would like to have this in another variable, I'll say completed equal with executions dot as enumerable. Actually, no. Let me show you another way how you would write that. So you can use nested language integrated queries, and here how you do that. From execution row in executions, you're gonna still keep as enumerable, and I'm gonna write a where clause where the execution row dot field. I'm gonna grab a string, and first I'm gonna have a look to the status. So status is with capital T equal with OK, and I need to grab the execution row dot field. I need to have to the task column, which is with capital T equal with my task. And actually it's a typo here. I have a task with this is the one from the task row. Great, so this is the way how I filter all these OKs. Now for each of these elements here, I'm gonna have a collection. So let me show you. For each element, I would like to have a collection from region codes. And because I'm having a look to the region codes here with here. So how I do that, I will just say select execution row that field. I'm gonna grab a string with the region code, and that was all. Here is how you would make a subquery. Okay, so with this collection which are completed but corresponding to the task ID, what I need to do? Well, I'm gonna use the same trick. I'm gonna select a new. The first one, it's a task which is given by the task, and then I need to have completed var RC condition. I'm just gonna copy and hit OK. So in the completed here, let's make a check. The execution of task in execution data with the status are relevant if a task is executed for all the region codes defined in the task column, then has all varied RC. So what I would do, I would just grab this collection from the task column, from here. I would grab this collection or this collection, and all these elements, if all these elements are found inside this filtering, then I'm gonna set this to true. So how I do that? Well, I will just say region codes. These are the defined region codes from this column, from the task. If all the element, they are exist in this completed solution. So completed, how you say that? Completed, that's a collection. And how do you check all the elements are inside this collection? Now I need to write a condition that is available, it returns true or false if one element from the region codes is inside the completed solution. So how I check that? Well, with contains. You have guessed, contains. Now, which is the element which I'm gonna check is the current element, which is ly. So I hope you have understood that. Now I'm gonna repeat again. These are all the defined region codes from this file, from here. That's a collection, right? Now this is a subset, this completed, but it's subset also with the collection because we are selecting the region code which for each individual item. So we do have two collections and we like to check the element exists. By the way, I'm not looking to the order. I'm only interested if the element contains there. So this is the way how you do that with this all. And what I need to do here, I'm gonna need to add a comma here and I'll say completed RC query equal, can you guess what I will write here? Well, exactly the same. I will just copy this. If it's any element for that particular task, by the way, ly.task equal with task and ly is completed varc, and I think without query. I need to write here in the item that completed, and I think I should need to modify the data table. I should do that as the first. Let's see this data table, and I need to add another column, which is here, completed or RC. I will use as a string. To be honest, I can use Boolean. It will work the same. Hit OK. And now let's give a run. I can rename this, let's say result advanced. Actually, let's do that. Result advanced. And let's give a run to this robot. Okay, and we do have an exception. So what's the exception? Status does not belong to the data table. So I think we do have an error. Let's have a look here to the, that's the result column. And I think it's easy to be fixed. We are an advanced. Go here to, and let's see the result. Let's hit OK, and let's give another run. Now let's give a run. And because we said these values, they will be false for all of them. I'm gonna check actually this. I will try to make and modify just to check if our query will run correctly. I will just drag from the other screen. And indeed, this one is false. Now I would like to make one check. Let's take for the task 1, because I think this one has multiple elements. It has 4 elements, but they are okay. So I'm planning to make a modification for the task 1. This one contains A1, B1, C1. All of them needs to be completed. So A1, it's okay. Its status okay. B1, it's okay. And I think we do have C1. Let me highlight a bit. So A1, B1, C1. Well, if we just modify this B1 with OK, I think we should be able to have this T1 OK. I will just drag and drop this one. Let's hit OK. And let's close and save. To be honest, I don't know if I have modified the correct file. I will just double check Advent. No, I had another file open. So T1, I need to say this OK. I'm gonna save. I had the same file, but in another path. So I need to close this one also. I don't need to save. This one is from beginner. No, I don't need to save. And let's give another run. Now for T1, if we did everything correctly, we should have the value true. So let's double check. And we do have the value true. Guys, what do you think? What do you think about this powerful technique? Drop me a comment if you want to make more tutorials about how you do data manipulation correctly and without any headache. And it's very easy to be tested. Now let's make a recap what we have covered here. Filtering, grouping, how you write multiple queries, how you merge, how you read from data table, how you read from any collection, well, a bunch of stuff. If you like this type of content and you'd like to support me to continue to make this video, hit that like, subscribe button. It really gives me a lot of things. Also, if you want to learn about certain topic, how you manipulate data or things for advanced guys, drop me here a comment. I'm gonna try to tackle that problem in a later video. Now that was for today. It's actually Christmas Eve at the moment where I'm recording this, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna put this video on time. The contest is finishing tomorrow, but really it doesn't matter. I hope you have a lot of values from this, and if you want me to continue to make these videos, support me with that like button. Don't be shy. That's all for today, and see you next time. Goodbye.